In order to keep it short, here representing the Bishop of San Jose, Patrick J. McGrath, and 660,000 of its members, I am humbled and honored to be here to stand in solidarity with Michael Brown and the rest of the victims, especially those here locally that we all know have lost their lives to violence. And we are all called as a community of believers in the human race, and believers in love and compassion, in believers in a society and a community that calls for kinship and not of violence. But we must also be realistic. As we call the Ferguson community to act in peace and in nonviolent manner, we must ourselves set the example, especially this upcoming Wednesday at 5 o'clock, as we unite together as a community that is really standing in solidarity with our community of Ferguson, our community in our counties, especially those poor and marginalized and victims of being young men, being young men of color. I am humbled that we stand in my home parish for almost 40 years, where these are my streets and this is where I witnessed much of the same occurrences, but maybe not to the extreme of Michael Brown, but rather that injustice that exists in our own streets here. And I am so happy and humbled that we are gathered here at Most Holy Trinity Parish, where this is the heart of much of the injustice that takes place here in our diocese. And I'd like to end with the words not of a saint, but a hero among us that couldn't be here today, but I know that if he was local, Father Greg Boyle would be sharing these words of kinship and of love. Only kinship inching ourselves closer to creating a community of kinship such that God might recognize it. Soon we imagine, with God, this circle of compassion. Then we imagine no one standing outside of that circle, moving ourselves closer to the margins so that the margins themselves will be erased. We stand there with those whose dignity has been denied. We locate ourselves with the poor and the powerless and the voiceless. At the edges, we join the easily despised and the readily left out. We stand with the demonized so that the demonizing will stop. We situate ourselves right next to the disposable so that that day will come when we stop throwing people away. The prophet Habakkuk writes, "The vision still has its time, presses on to fulfillment, and it will not disappoint. And if it delays, wait for it." Kinship is what God presses us on to do, always hopeful that its time has come. Amen.